Hello, welcome back to NPC Stories. Thank you for sticking with me through my technical difficulties. It turns out there is nothing wrong with my new microphone. There is something wrong with the program I'm using that decided it didn't want to use my new microphone. So, thanks, computer. This week we're heading into the Underdark to meet the Svirfneblin. Svirfneblin is not a word I made up. It is in those books over there. They are deep gnomes. That is a subrace of gnomes, just like rock gnomes and forest gnomes. But they're called Svirfneblin, which is so much more fun to say. Svirfneblin! These Svirfneblin live in a city called Dweffendref, that one I did make up, that lies across the mushroom forest from a large encampment of drow and quaggoth. In fact, it's only the hallucinatory spores of the mushroom forest that have kept the drow at bay for so long. That, and the gnome city's elaborate defenses. The defenders of Dweffendref fall into two categories, the swords and the shields. The swords are combat-oriented fighters that patrol the mushroom forest, looking for any drow or other menacing creatures that may have escaped the effects of the mushroom spores. They tend to keep an eye on strangers until they've proven themselves good or bad, although they may interfere if the drow attack them. The shields are magic users that are responsible for maintaining all of the illusion and trap magic that surrounds and protects the city itself. This week I'm going to introduce you to Kai Ningle, who doesn't really fall into either category, and two swords, Siani Folkor and Tutor Garrick. Kai Ningle is the only Svirfneblin that speaks Common, which makes him pretty unique among the gnomes. Of course, Kai has been special since the day that he was born. He's the first White-Eye to be born to the city in centuries. White-Eyes are very powerful sorcerers, and their birth is usually a sign of a future of prosperity and peace. As a magic user, he was pushed by his aunt and uncle, who are the elder and the matron of the city, to become a shield. But that didn't interest Kai. In fact, he doesn't care for his magical talent much at all. He much prefers tinkering in his workshop, working on explosive weapons that can keep the Svirfneblin at a safe distance from the poison arrows of the drow. He was 8 when he developed his first firearm prototype. By the time he was 12, he had equipped the city with 2 cannons known as the Iron Boomers, and by 15, he had developed his first functional handheld weapon. Now he provides many of the swords with these pepper boxes, and it has given them the upper hand in their constant war with the drow. Kai is short even for a gnome, and waifishly thin, as he often forgets to eat when he is tinkering or studying his small collection of books. He has gray skin like most things in the Underdark, and he grows tufts of white hair on his head. He wears glasses that have extra lenses for magnification, which make his white eyes even more striking. He's only 17, but already a powerful sorcerer who tends to use his magic very casually. He is loyal to his people and knows that his duty is to them, though he can be stubborn about how exactly he's going to serve them. Kai is fascinated by the Upperlands and barrages anybody who has been there with questions about it. But he would never leave his people, no matter how tempting the offer. Kai has a crush on Siani, and whenever she's around, he tends to just babble about firearms. It's kind of adorable when he gets nervous. Siani Folkor was an orphan, and like many of the Svirfneblin, she was raised by the matron, Kai's aunt. She was rebellious and reckless as a child, but a talented fighter, so she was recruited to become a sword. She passed the training quickly and was sent into the field at a much younger age than most. Partnered with the more experienced Tutor Garrick to counterbalance her recklessness, she actually did quite well for a few months. However, she grew overconfident and was captured by the drow. She was held prisoner for almost a year before she managed to escape and return to her people. She never speaks of her time as a prisoner, but the scars that mark her body say much about it. She is now a bit more cautious in her patrols, but still just as fierce. Upon her return from the drow, she began to train with Kai's new weapon and was the first sword to carry it into the field. She quickly proved its destructive power, and others followed suit. Siani is middling in height, with dark gray eyes and a shaved head. She's all lean muscle, and her brown-gray skin is riddled with scars as though she was whipped or cut hundreds of times. 2 star-shaped puncture scars mark her cheek and her neck, where one of the drow's giant spiders bit her when she was captured. Siani wears studded leather armor, carries a pepper box in a holster at her side, and a short sword, just in case her firearm should fail her. Her hatred for the drow runs deep, and she won't stand to let any other creature suffer as she did. Tutor Garrick, who most just call Garrick, is an older sword at age 36. He was top of his class in sword training and entered the field with a large ego, until a bad encounter with a black pudding left his hand crippled and he was forced to take a temporary leave from the swords. He spent many months training and learning to work around his disability, and when he rejoined the swords, he was partnered with the young Siani. He initially disliked being partnered with Siani as he found her strategies reckless and risky, But he has grown fond of her and respects her passion, bravery, and determination, though he doesn't understand her interest in using explosives. Garrick prefers to fight with his trusty pick or with his own hands. He wears no armor as he believes it just slows him down, but he does have a little natural talent for magic and uses it to cloak him and his partner when they're out in the forest. Garrick is only slightly taller than Siani, but broad and muscled. He has gray skin, gray eyes, and no hair on his head. His left arm is dimpled and scarred by his black pudding encounter, and his hand is kind of twisted and gnarled. Garrick believes that anyone fighting the Drow is a potential ally, and though he doesn't speak Common, he will try to communicate with Upperlanders to try to convince them to come back to the city and speak with Kai. Though he will blind them physically or magically so they don't learn the secrets of the Svirfneblin traps and illusions. And those are some of the Svirfneblin. My players were level 4 when they met these guys, so adjust levels accordingly if you plan to use them. I use Matthew Mercer's Gunslinger archetype for Siani. You can get it on DM's Guild. I'll put a link to it down in the doobly-doo, along with all of the character sheets. As always, I hope these characters helped or inspired you in some way. You can let me know by liking this video. If you want to see more NPCs in the future, or you just want to hear me say Svirfneblin some more, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You can also find me on Twitter at NPC Stories. I think I'm finally starting to get the hang of it. Join me next week to meet Siani's sister and the Svirfneblin Shields.